The beginning of this video includes a text-to-speech generated voiceover from the voice of Dave in Canva to speak for me regarding disclaimers and updates on the situation. The following content is shared to you under Louisiana first-party consent laws regarding recording conversations at the time of these events. Any copyright that applies to any material shared is intended only to be used under the scope of fair use law, for the purposes of education, reporting, social commentary, and parody. The original recording here was filmed on October 4, 2024, which includes material documented from May through October 2024 with initial edits done October 5, 2024 on putting content together and redaction of confidential information. A right to sue letter was given regarding this issue in October 2024 from the EEOC. I was not able to get any attorney to even look at my emails once they found out who I wanted to go against. I had one attorney call me and tell me personally no one was going to take my case because they would still have to face him in court after. I felt extremely defeated after that call and getting the right to sue letter. I made a video that I never shared publicly until now to ground myself. And then I tried to move on. Except for not only was this situation in and of itself a huge trigger for me, but also do employees of the firm not realize I can see when they view my profile. Look at the dates on this shit. 2 months before August 27th would be June 27th, after I was out of that bitch. Isn't it weird that about a week later my former boss's partner was looking me up, or someone who happened to have his name? Saw this like WTF. Then I was really like, what the hell, why are you looking at me? Then I was like, oh hell no, is this from before or another fucking one? What the fucking fuck, it's been over a year, why are you guys viewing me? If y'all are viewing me within the last week from when I saw this, then what the fuck? How does a bitch that worked there for only 2 weeks still live in your heads a year later? I think I can't wrap my mind around what happened to me, cause I would never treat others that way. But why are you checking for me? Besides this video, I only ever made one post publicly about this after seeing these views again. When you screenshot 4 profile views from different staff members of the last law firm you worked 2 weeks at. Please do not contact me if you have ever been associated with this firm. Begin quote, the parties do not dispute that the alleged act of malpractice occurred within 3 years of plaintiff's name redacted filing the complaint. They dispute only whether plaintiff's name redacted filed its complaint within 1 year from the date it discovered or should have discovered the defendant's alleged act, omission, or neglect giving rise to the malpractice claim. End quote. Quote from defendants in malpractice case against the partner of personal injury firm I am speaking on. Without further ado, I bring to you a story about learning a thing or two when it comes to those who work for you, and choosing who to trust when community is a must to not get left in the dust.
I'm gonna tell you a story, strange as it might seem, of David, Goliath, and glory, plus the bitch queen of New Orleans. Her ancestors' past was tragic, some are missing and murdered too, but her father, Paul, descended, her lineage to renew, can reconcile without truth. She's gonna tell on you. She's gonna tell on you. She's the bitch queen of New Orleans. Neither Big's vapor rub nor ibuprofen can make everything go away. No mistake near for a lotion. Emotion is a potion. People act different every day. When it comes to being fishy, the cookie monster will eat your soul. Wondering, did she lose control? Being bitchy. She's gonna tell on you. She's gonna tell on you. She's the bitch queen of New Orleans. Of New Orleans.
Hi, my name is Alexis, also known as Lexi or Deaf Child. I was born deaf, hard of hearing. I began doing business as Deafchild 2013, marketing 2011, sales 2009. I've earned 50 plus certifications in marketing and sales. My Bachelor of Science from Loyola University, New Orleans, with a music industry studies major and a business administration minor. Deafness runs in my family genetically. Speech is not fully accessible to me. Anyway, I'm here to bitch about whatever the fuck is on my mind. So here we go. Visit my site at noladeafchild.com. So today I want to tell you guys a story. It's a David and Goliath story. So in this situation, I am David. I'm David now. And what we have here is, I'm going to tell you about Goliath, Cookie Monster, and Fishy. I will not be using real names for this story, but what I will say, I'm going to do my best to redact every fucking thing. You shouldn't be able to see who it is, who I'm talking about. I think it's really funny that on the back of Goliath's book, he calls himself an oralist. In deaf community, an oralist is someone who discriminates against deaf people because oralism is a movement in which speech is regarded as superior to sign language, and oralists are part of committing eugenics and genocide against deaf people. Now, so what I did was I put together a Google Drive, and in the Google Drive, I uploaded everything. So I have one document. So the altercation that occurred on June 20th. So on June 23rd, I sat down and I wrote everything I remember in there. And then I started building my timeline, documenting everything. And then one other document that I started, but I haven't finished even as of the making of this video yet, would be I started outlining all of the work that I'd had in progress when I left. But I did upload all of my work documentation. And so I've uploaded my notes prior to surrounding the altercation. So all of my onboarding material, the work notes, the 2 days leading up to the altercation, I had some particular work notes relevant. And I also took work notes on June 14th as it related to market research as well. And yeah, we'll go over all of this as well at another time. So I had my timeline. I built a timeline with the altercation, the termination, and initiating legal action. So I, put together everything that I remembered. About the time I remembered I was called into the office, the time someone was called to pick me up, when I was removed from business admin. I've got screenshots, when the Slack password was changed, and all of that. And then I just kept building my timeline. Every time something happened, I screenshot it. And then even they locked me out of my email to where I couldn't go view my email, but because the app was on my phone, until I deleted the app, for some fucking reason, I kept getting push notifications for my email. So for a few days there, I screenshot that shit, put it up in here too, because some of the stuff from that kind of shows what I'm saying, you know what I mean? Where I believe I was fired and that they're trying to claim I quit, but I didn't. And in my opinion, that could be based on the timeline. We'll go over everything. And so I put everything in here, as well as documenting my EEOC filing when I began EEOC filing. So on June 23rd June 24th is when I began, is when I went to the EEOC field office in person. June 22nd is when I submitted my EEOC inquiry filing. June 24th is when I went to the EEOC office in person and scheduled my interview, which happened on September 19th. And there's something else that's real funny about that too. But you know what? Let's just take it to the top. Hold up. Let's just go over. I'm going to show my fucking email links instead of doing the screenshots. Because the timeline has the screenshots. This has my email link. So 10 a.m.ish, there was an altercation. Here's everything that I remember processed on June 23rd, 2024. I was emailed to go office back an article. Noticed I was upset because I had been crying, but I figured if I let myself release that emotion, I could fix my face by my next scheduled meeting in an hour. But I was called into this office last minute. He's asking me to discuss issue. I said I needed more time to process this and that I wasn't ready because I have had too much going on to analyze all my notes, the messages, emails, and tasks assigned to me. I was pressured to speaking now, and I said I will get my phone to try and better articulate from my previously saved notes. I used my notes to discuss idea I had regarding possible adjustments and workload, concerns with a work environment and culture, discuss struggle with knowing how to communicate which words he wanted me to use because I don't feel like I could talk to him, and that this felt fake because I felt forced to share things I didn't want to talk about then. He told me this was his firm. He had a right to know about everything that I was thinking about his business. He said that work wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. He was pressuring me to tell him which coworkers I was concerned about in regards to work culture concerns and said that I was being offensive. I tried to tell him how my mind processes information, short-term and long-term, how I can't remember things for long unless I write them down, but I can still remember the beginning of the Aeneid in Latin off memory, and I recited Arma Urumque Cano Troiaque Primus Abortus. I'm sorry. So fucking, I do really well on procedures and wanted to build out SOPs, and I try to show an example of SOPs I have built out before because I wanted instructions so that anyone could step into my role and know how to do it regardless of background. I said because my mind needs time to process, I had been doing way too much to fully sit and look through everything and understand the issues I was having, and so I had been continuing to try and complete tasks and communicate as things arise in the moment while I process long-term issues. I also tried to tell him many things I had problems with or issues I wasn't sure if was related to me being new and needing to learn how they operate, issues with the position generally, or just frustrations related to an adjustment period. I thought he was dismissing my concerns by telling me he took care of his employees based on the concerns I expressed because he knew about my examples already. I expressed concerns about coworkers being overstimulated and not taking lunch breaks, and I think he wanted me to know it was exigent circumstances. I didn't even want to name names or talk about the situation specifically. I was just telling him I felt this culture was one where people just try to act like they're okay, but they're really not. And then he kept asking me what I was talking about and who I was talking about, and I expressed multiple times I didn't want to discuss it, but he wouldn't let it go. But because he was telling me about one being hospitalized and another having to deal with increased workload from another being out of work and stuff, it did come off as if he didn't seem to understand. I was expressing my concern for the work environment generally and how I was struggling in it. I mentioned I felt like two other people were overstimulated when I happened to need to go by them for work after being pressured to speak. I felt like he was more concerned with telling me he treats people well because other people like it there than understanding where I was coming from with how, for me, this could be perceived as a culture where people don't speak up or are accommodated. He also kept saying, "You're an adult, you can leave if you want to." When I mentioned this is the second time he said that, he said because I was acting like I wanted to leave, and I said I never said that, but it feels like I'm not wanted there. I reiterated I had told him I wasn't ready to talk about this. He made me talk about it anyway, and now I feel punished for it. I told him when pressured like this, I was like a volcano or a pimple popping. I know I expressed struggling to feel like I could function in a work environment like this. Then at that moment, I had what I feel is a panic attack. I was hyperventilating. I couldn't breathe. My heart was pounding. I couldn't control the tears streaming down my face. There was pressure and pain on my chest, and I felt like I couldn't calm down or get oxygen. Then tried to get me to calm down after that. But I pause right here because I just said the dude's name, and I feel like I probably said it multiple times in here. What I'm gonna have to do after this is just bleep it out or some shit. So I apologize. Then Goliath tried to get me to calm down after that, but I couldn't control my breathing or tears. He got me some water, asked what helps when I'm like this. I remember him calling me sweetheart. I couldn't tell if that was standard New Orleans cultural vernacular in terms of in New Orleans it is common for people to call each other darling, baby, or sweetheart. Like if I go out, especially if it's an older lady, I wouldn't be surprised by that. But it felt odd based on 1 minute I felt anger, then the next a switch. He asked me what normally makes me feel better, and I said, I don't know, a hug, but that would be weird, because compression can regulate the nervous system, and hugs do help me ground myself when I'm struggling like this. So then he hugged me, and after that, he told me to just go home and that he would talk to HR, so I left. Next thing I know, my password was changed by someone else, and I'm getting logged out of the company digital workspace after I was told to go home. And then when I tried to communicate about not only if I should come back, but also why I'm confused as to this sudden switch up when I thought we were trying to work together, I was told by HR the next day that I resigned when I never did so. Even I asked if they were firing me. So yeah, and again, I'm gonna have to heavily bleep out, redact, and shit like that. My bad if the video gets edited really off. And just to let you guys know how much I was doing, this is my agenda where I was writing down the tasks that I was doing and things that I was told to do and assigned to do and what I was working on as I was doing it, and where I wrote notes updating where I was in these tasks for my own records. And so this is my week from June 10th through June 16th. This is how much I was doing. And this was my week from what I had started between June 17th and June 20th from what I was doing, from working with them. And that does not include meetings as well. I also had meetings that I was scheduled for through June, as well as had begun scheduling them for July. So when I say I was struggling with task management, it wasn't like I was just twiddling my thumbs around, you know. I felt like I was being assigned a lot to do. On June 11th, when I had my first meeting with Goliath, he gave me a list of about 30 things for me to do. And all of these projects had already been started and were ongoing. And so I was immediately kind of thrown into getting on top of 30 projects and working on 30 things. And he was expecting status reports on where I was, on what I knew about, and how much was I involved on each of these items, in my opinion, from what I felt. And I don't think I said this at the beginning. Maybe I should. All of this is my perception. I think you'll see in the email where I attempted to get communication and better feedback from them from my perspective. Perhaps I could have used different words or a different strategy to do so, but I also think you could understand as well, based on what occurred, why my and where my mental state was. I was in the middle of a mental breakdown at this point. And so, you know, I think there are things that I said that are good and bad, in my opinion, from what I've said. And by that I mean, you know, like maybe I said too much, you know, things they didn't need to know about or whatever. Um, for me, it was all connected, particularly at the time. So, yeah. But anyway, fucking at 10 a.m. ish, the managing partner denies accommodation for mental health, more time to process information before speaking. And this is also related to being deaf as well. Deaf people do need that additional accommodation to think about what is said. By the way, and I was sent home from work after a panic attack. Also, the EEOC has all of this that I'm showing you. And so we read everything I remember. And at 10:27 a.m., I called somebody to pick me up. So yeah. At 12:26 p.m., I was removed from the business admin on Facebook on June 20th. I was removed from the admin at 12:26 p.m. after I was sent home. I was removed from the Slack password was changed by somebody, but it was not by me. at 3:07 p.m. So then at 3:39 p.m., I email the managing partner asking if I was fired. And I was having a damn mental breakdown. Um, and so fucking, I just sent him my notes. And he probably thought I was fucking crazy talking about him in the third person. Uh, there I go with my ableist vernacular. It's internalized ableism this time. So he probably, me and my mental breakdown, I just sent him my notes and I forgot to say, hey, I'm sending you my notes. And I was in such a mental breakdown and so like upset that I'm just like, you know? And fucking I can't even use words to describe how I felt in this moment. But what I sent to the managing partner was got called into Goliath's office, talk about writing an article, asked me what was wrong, let him know I wasn't in a place to discuss it, I didn't want to say wrong words, felt like he was pressuring me and prying, and I was trying to tell him I couldn't do this conversation. Now I tried to discuss what's bothering me, felt aggressively spoken to, spoken at, and told I'm offending, had a fucking panic attack and said I tried to communicate, could do this right now without punishing, now I feel punished for it. Said twice if I could leave if I want to, but also kept telling me I wanted to stay and I think I do well there. On 12:30, removed from Facebook admin on their account around 3:15, Slack task change. And I said, do I go in tomorrow? Is that lightening my workload or do you not want me there? And I should have said, like, hey, these are my notes or something. Like, I forgot to either switch the words because all I did was copying and paste from my notes on this situation. I was so upset that I didn't think to, have that grounding of, you know what I mean? Um, and he said, Goliath said, and he CC'd Cookie Monster and Fishy. And Goliath said, Alexis, please reach out to your direct reports with inquiries of this nature, Fishy and or Cookie Monster. And I responded, if we have a problem, and he said that at 4:12 p.m. And I responded at 5:52 p.m. If we have a problem with each other, we should be able to communicate. I'm trying and have tried my best to communicate with you directly. With you, it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't. That type of response and what happened earlier makes me feel like I can't talk to you and you don't want to talk to me. Your own handbook. Oh, here I go. Hold on. You know what? I was about to go look for the page number of where this was on the handbook, but I am relatively certain that I cite this later, so we're gonna come back to that. Okay. It says your own handbook says to address the issue that you have with the person you have it with before bringing others into the conversation, unless I misinterpreted that. If this is your way of creating that boundary, and I guess now I know, but I still feel this is another example of how I don't understand the root issue and feel there is competing information and process that I feel can be contradicting. If you can't talk to me directly about how to communicate with you, then how can we even work together on premise? Chain of command is important for procedure and protocol and decision making, but I have no marketing procedures or protocols to follow. In terms of day-to-day operations, I try my best to communicate with the people I think I'm supposed to be communicating with, but as discussed, I am overwhelmed on who I should be telling what when. It's mostly been trying to keep up with all the notifications. The way I was spoken to today, I've never experienced from anyone I've worked with. I've been spoken to poorly by like a customer in the service industry, but never the way it happened. And I've had like obviously arguments with managers before, but not like that. And I'm talking about like over 15 years of working, if you haven't argued with your manager before, I don't fucking believe you. Anyway, it said, wait, where was I? Shit, hold up. Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm trying not to react right now. Okay, you know what? I might leave that in because I wasn't like, but okay, hold on. So let me see if I can stick to what happened. I said, I'm used to being treated with respect. I'm used to a workplace I can communicate openly and I don't get shut down in. I really hope you reconsider the way you treat people going forward. Work isn't all sunshine and rainbows, but I've never experienced something like this at work. If this is the norm there, I can't be productive. Work is usually where I escape from reality and where the rest of the world falls away for me. Like, I genuinely love working to where I work for hours, but the communication is something I don't understand there. Because for me, I said I wasn't going to do this. You know what? I'm going to do this another time. I'm sorry. Okay, I don't know what other words to use to let you know what issues I've been having than the ones I've said as things come up. That's why I asked for more time to process the better word, but I felt pressured and then you didn't like that. Consent is important to me. I won't keep emailing you. I do think you should answer your team directly about these questions if you actually care about your team as individuals instead of passing me off as if you don't want to deal with me. I won't beg to be somewhere I feel unwanted. I wish you well. If you ever want my notes or to talk at a later date about what I've processed in my experience, happy to share if it helps. So I offer to share all of my notes and stuff that I have, letting y'all know. He did not take me up on this offer for the following week, and we'll see where I revoke consent later, but I revoked consent to communicate about a week later, and he did not take me up on that offer during that time. So yeah. And then on June 21st at 7:16 a.m., I have a notification that the firm meetings were canceled by the CMO. And these were meetings that I was supposed to be in like every month. Then at 11:33 a.m., HR emailed me that I resigned. Let's go to this email. So 11:33 a.m., Friday, June 21st, Icky. I think I accidentally, that's too close. Let me start that over. I'm going to cut that clip out. Okay, on Friday, June 21st at 11:33 a.m., Fishy said, "Hi Alexis, Goliath filled me in on the emails you sent him directly yesterday evening. With you not showing up for work this morning and reading your last email to David, you have decided to resign from your marketing position at our firm. I will need you to return the office key and any other property you may have, either by dropping it off at the office or putting it in the email and mailing it directly to my attention. We wish you the best in your future endeavors. Sincerely, Fishy." I responded, Friday, June 21st at 4:26 p.m. "Hi, I did not resign. I questioned how could we work together if we could not communicate. I asked if I was fired due to being removed after being sent home, after pressure to discuss what I asked for more time to process on. I never quit. I tried to communicate. It's just you firing me. I was sent home, and then my meetings were canceled, and I was locked out of Slack, and then you were CC'd on the response where I asked if I was fired and what do I do. This is not me no-showing, and that is not me quitting. That is me asking for clarification on where I stand and how to communicate. Never did I use the words I resign or I quit. I only asked if I was fired. Your response to am I fired is I resigned, but I never said or did so in writing, and I was sent home and not told when to come back with me being locked out of Slack yesterday and my meetings canceled. In the future, for future people, I hope y'all can at least acknowledge where the communication has been inconsistent or have competing information. I will discuss with you to get your office key returned when I feel more mentally stable next week, because my understanding is this is a firing if it doesn't want to work with me or communicate with me." I'm going to have to redact a name I said there, so there's going to be some missing something with the audio. Anyway, then I said I still have not been paid for my work there, so also if there's anything I can do to get paid regarding that, please let me know. And then at 5:23 p.m., I sent a rough timeline from my perspective. June 20th, 2024, 10 a.m., altercation with managing partner. Called support human, 10:27 a.m. 3:07 p.m., Slack password changed. Email asking if fired, sent to managing partner, 3:39 p.m. Response given 4:12 p.m., ask someone else. Reply given 5:52 p.m. because I want to have conflict resolution regarding denial of accommodations requested, more time to process. June 21st, 2024. 7:16 a.m. Firm meetings with CMO were canceled by CMO. 11:33 a.m. HR emailed me that I resigned. 3:16 p.m. Marketing mastermind meetings with CMO canceled by CMO. 4:26 p.m. I responded to HR that I never resigned and asked if I was fired. 4:56 p.m. Notice logged out of email, but then somehow push notifications from it came through my phone showing that I was removed as a team member on Canva. Let's go look at that screenshot. 4:56 p.m. Notice logged out of email. (4:56 p.m.)
That's where I was clicked on the notification for this, and then I see I'm logged out. It wouldn't let me see it, but I'm still getting the push notifications. And so I was removed from my coworker's team. Yeah. I said, letting you know that you should be more accommodating to people with mental health disabilities. In the future, I never resigned and should not be fired for having a panic attack after being denied accommodations for mental health, even when I tried to explain how my mind works to him. And then I sent a link to Job Accommodation Network Employees Practical Guide to Requesting and Negotiating Reasonable Accommodations under the American with Disabilities Act. Now, it goes over the basics and if the employer needs to comply. Under requesting an accommodation, it says you can request at any time during the application process or while you are employed. You can request an accommodation even if you did not ask for one when applying for a job or after receiving a job offer. And then it says, as a practical matter, it is better to request an accommodation before your job performance suffers. That's what I tried to do. They knew about my deafness from the beginning. They also, in my opinion, I believe I disclosed my CPTSD during the interview as well. I disclosed my sexual assault during my initial interview with them because they asked me if they could contact some of my former references. And I said, you can, but they're probably not going to give me a good review because I called them out for supporting my rapist. But I still kept that shit in my resume because I did the damn work. So letting y'all know right there, I told them I was raped. They knew I'm deaf. You know I had trauma, and you know I'm deaf from the beginning. I've disclosed this to you. In my opinion. Now, and it says, how do I request an accommodation? It says you can use plain English. You do not have to mention the ADA or use the phrase reasonable accommodation. I asked for more time to process information. My opinion, that is a reasonable accommodation that would have had no undue burden on my employer. Negotiating. What if my employer denies my accommodation request? It tells me to file a charge with the EEOC. So guess what the fuck I did? I told them what I was doing. If they were paying attention, they would have known it was going this route if they didn't realize it before they were served their charge notice, whatever the fuck that's called. Moving on. Oh, this is where I put some of the issues with the manual. Let me pull that up. Hold up. All right, so now I go into the issues with the manual that are contradicting in this experience. Code of conduct. First line, third paragraph implies that the code applies to all people at the firm in all situations. We expect all team members who work at the firm to treat opposing counsel, their staff, third parties, vendors, clients, and any people who we interact with at the utmost level of professionalism. All team members. Okay. Second paragraph implies a chance to try and resolve conflict with each other before escalating. The code is aspirational, and there will obviously be missteps in professionalism, mistakes in comments, emails, or phone calls you wish you could take back. If you do something with opposing counsel you feel is unprofessional, there is a simple solution. Call them and apologize. No one is perfect, and acknowledging you fell below your expectations of professionalism is achieving the purpose of professionalism, in that you care to attempt a level of treating others in the bar with respect. This code also applies to our professional non-attorney team members, marketing professionals, paralegals, and legal assistants, receptionists, case evaluation specialists, executive assistants, office administration and human resource staff, accounting staff, intake professionals, and others. Then I say section 1, page 6 of your manual seems to imply I should not be discriminated against for my mental health. It says employment opportunities are and shall be open to all qualified applicants based on their experience, aptitudes, and abilities. Oh, my bad, I'm reading the wrong part. It is and shall be the continuing policy of the firm that all qualified persons are entitled to equal employment opportunity. There shall be no discrimination against any person or group based on race, color, religion, national origin, sex, sexual orientation, age, disability, veteran status, or genetic information. Yeah. Then I said, so I do not understand why me wanting time to process was such a big deal, or how this escalated, or why we can't discuss it, or why I am being told I resigned if I asked for clarification, if I was fired after I was logged out of the company chat after being sent home. On page 7 and page 23, I hadn't processed if they applied in the given situation, saying as I had this event occur with this person individually who I need to be able to communicate with in order to promote and do my job and collaborate, if at this point what I think is page 5, Code of Conduct, applies, or if page 7 and 23 apply, or if the fact that my day-to-day communication required to complete my job is outside of the scope of the chain of command on page 7 and 23. For example, when Goliath asked me to come into his office to work on the article, that doesn't mean based on page 23 I should go to HR first, right? It means we have to work together, right? So I'm not trying to disregard a boundary. I just don't understand the way you operate, and I tried my best to be able to work together. So let's take a look at all of this. So I didn't know if page 7 and page 23 applied, or if page 5 applied with the Code of Conduct. The Code of Conduct is what I already told you about regarding the code applying to all people in all firms, as well as the second paragraph where I believe it implies a chance to try and resolve conflict with each other before escalating, right? We already read that. So let's go check out page 7 and page 23. So page 7, it has the harassment policy and complaint procedure, as well as another form called harassment complaint procedure. Now, it talks about how harassment is not tolerated or whatever. In my opinion, I felt like that they're inconsistent with that this portion of the manual being upheld based on what happened with me. But it says right here, it says, it is a firm policy that harassment will not be tolerated. All team members are prohibited from engaging in the harassment of any team member or other person during or in connection with employment. The desired standard of team member behavior is one of the cooperation and respect for each other, despite any differences. The firm is committed to providing a work environment that is free of discrimination and unlawful harassment. Such behavior includes unwanted remarks or conduct that is based on a team member's actual or perceived race, color, religion, national origin, sex, pregnancy, disability, age, protected activity, medical condition, veteran status, HIV positive status, sexual orientation, political affiliation, marital status, including with domestic partners, gender appearance, or other statutorily projected categories. Harassment also includes unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, and other verbal or physical conduct of a sexual nature when submission or rejection of this conduct explicitly or implicitly affects a person's employment, or 2, submission or rejection of such conduct is used as the basis for employment or promotion decisions affecting the individual, or 3, such conduct unreasonably interferes with a person's work performance or creates an intimidating, hostile, or offensive work environment. Notwithstanding this policy, the firm does not waive any federal or state requirements or defenses to qualify for any protective laws, such as team member minimum income requirements for ADA, etc. And then it says, The firm is unable to respond to a team member's concern about discrimination, prohibited, offensive behavior, or harassment if it is unaware such conduct has occurred or is occurring. Therefore, if you believe you're being harassed in any way by another team member, by a manager, by a customer, or by anyone with whom you come into contact during your work, you should report these actions immediately. You may report harassment to the office administrator who acts as human resources director or to your immediate manager. A team member may report harassment orally or in writing to any of these individuals. If the person engaging in the harassing behavior is one of the persons listed above as a report person, simply telling the person to stop the harassing behavior will not serve as a report of your concern because that individual may fail to report their own conduct. The firm will respond to allegations of harassment by promptly conducting a full and impartial investigation. All information regarding any specific incident will be kept confidential within the necessary boundaries of the fact-finding process to the fullest extent possible. If the firm finds that harassment did occur, it reserves full discretion to immediately issue any corrective action up to and including immediate termination of employment. Any manager who knew about the harassment and took no action to stop it or failed to report the prohibited conduct may also be subject to disciplinary action. The firm considers harassment to be a major offense that can result in suspension or discharge of the offender. If you have reported harassment and are dissatisfied in any way with the action taken, immediately report your dissatisfaction to the next higher level of management. And then I said to them, page 8 could mean there would be no retaliation regarding me trying to communicate the issues I have, so I don't understand why I feel exiled for trying to communicate to improve the workplace. Let's go look at page 8. No retaliation. No retaliation. No reprisals or retaliation against a team member reporting allegations of harassment will be tolerated. The firm will take disciplinary action against anyone who seeks reprisal because of harassment being reported or information being provided regarding harassment. No harassment and no retaliation policies are intended to maintain a safe and pleasant working environment for all team members. These policies are not implemented as a requirement of any federal or state laws, and the firm does not waive any jurisdictional issues arising out of the number of team members. And so then I said, just as you may not understand what I mean by my words, I don't understand what the firm means with the communication flow I went through there. I never resigned, I never quit. I do feel I was let go and sent away and then removed from the workplace for not understanding why I couldn't have some time to process to better discuss issues. Again, I wish you well, and I hope you consider how these issues might impact others too. And then I said, processing after that email was sent. If I had no consent to be in the digital workspace, why should I think I have consent to be in the physical office? I was removed from Slack prior to email, and email due to removal from Slack. Will not try to blow up your email. I still have not fully processed all of this. All right, so this brings us to June 22nd. On June 22nd, at 5:33 p.m., my EEOC email verification code was received. At 6:19 p.m., my EEOC complaint supplemental inquiry was submitted by me in the online portal number. And so, yeah. And then I still kept getting notifications on June 23rd about everything. So at 7:02 a.m. I got a notification about Calendly. 3:30 p.m. I got another one about our SEO vendor. And I was still CC'd as if I wasn't gone about the website content. You know what I mean? In terms of like how they try to present as if they're not, as if they're a full front when it's actually not, in my opinion. But you know what? Hold on, I'm not trying to do that here. My bad. And then at 8:28 p.m., I said push email notification on my phone that Calendly page has been deactivated because Calendly no longer has permissions for my Office 365 calendar. So, yeah. And then on June 24th, 2024, at 12:38, oh no, my bad. At 9:54 a.m., I got an email push notification about a new lead. 10:33 a.m., push notification about Zapier, 10:46 a.m. push notification about Google Workspace. So yeah. And then at 12:38 p.m., I was trying to create a marketing SOP, and so that was a task assigned to me in Trello. So I got an email push notification on my phone regarding the CMO putting that on hold. Because it was a task assigned to me, and they had basically kicked me out. And then I was continuing to get email push notifications on my phone regarding commercials from Fox at 11:28 a.m. At 12:55 p.m. that day, I was dropped off at 500 Porter Street. And I went into the EEOC office on the 8th floor to schedule an interview on the next available opportunity. At 1:15 p.m., I left the EEOC field office, and I made proof of me being there. Okay. At 1:54 p.m., I got an email push notification regarding work content being transferred out of the Canva account. And then I began my attorney solicitation process. And then at 9:22 p.m., I emailed HR notifying of attempts to communicate PTO requests, communicating managing partner regarding absence and dispute of handbook regarding attempt at compliance. The handbook gives 3 days before voluntary resignation, provided notice of reporting to the office administrator regarding mental health on August 24th before deadline of voluntary resignation provided by handbook, which would be August 25th, 3 days of consecutive absence. And so I said additional discrepancies with handbook. Let's take it to the core values, page 4. Core values, prioritizing doing the right thing and holding each other accountable. Is telling someone they resigned after sending them home for a panic attack at work and logging them out of Slack the right thing to do, and is refusing to discuss that with me being accountable. Page 4, core values, respect others. Would you consider it respectful to not accommodate disabilities? Core values, consistency and solutions. Page 4, why revoke consent for me to access digital workspace June 20th after sending me home for a panic attack, then accuse me of resigning after I emailed twice attempting conflict resolution if consistent about solutions. Pages 20 and 32. Why is insubordination a reason to be fired on page 20? Team member, it's right here. It's an example of types of team member conduct which are not permissible and which may result in disciplinary action up to and including termination. Insubordination is one of those examples. And I said, so why is that reason you fired on page 20? But then on page 32, paragraph 3, it says, this manual and the policies and procedures contained herein supersede any and all prior practices, oral or written, representations, or statements regarding the terms and conditions of your employment with the firm. Two opposing ideas to me. On one hand, if I don't do as told, am fired. But then on the other, if instructions differ from handbook, could be fired. Yeah. Now page 20. Conduct that is subject to disciplinary action or termination includes insubordination, but is a misunderstanding of what an instruction is insubordination. How is it not following a direction I don't understand how to execute when I am trying to find out what is meant or happening? Page 25. Failure to report to work says I only voluntarily resigned if I failed to report without notifying your manager or another senior management level person. But I did email another senior management level person, the managing partner, on June 20th after he sent me home. And yeah, page 25. Oops. Failure to report to work says that only, I already just read that. Page 25. Failure to report to work for 3 consecutive scheduled work days without notifying your manager or another senior management level person, you'll be considered to have voluntarily resigned as of your last day of work. This does not mean you may not be terminated before then. I received an email stating that I voluntarily resigned June 21st, 2024 by not coming back to work after removed from digital workspace and not given an answer on if or when to come back June 20th, 2024. However, according to manual, I don't voluntarily resign unless I fail to report by June 25th, 2024 at 8:30 a.m. Central. So this email serves as me following manual guidelines to my understanding for reporting to HR on June 24th, 2024 before that deadline at the time the email is sent for unplanned PTO regarding mental health days. I did not know the right words to use to follow the office protocol to ensure that an unplanned PTO request or notice is granted. However, this is notice that I am attempting to complete such communication to the best of my ability according to the manual. Page 27. Item number 3 says to email office administrator into a message in Slack for unplanned PTO. My password was changed by someone else for Slack the day prior, and although it was sent to a different email, I do have emails to prove contact with HR office administrator that day in email response, as well as email to the managing partner, where the managing partner replied, CCing the office administrator regarding attendance and was not told if to come back after consent revoked for being in digital space. I also did not have the full business day to notify the proper email channel that day of needing PTO for mental health, as I was contacted first in the morning before I could reach out first. I have complied with instructions and communicated regarding issues as they arise to the best of my ability. I never resigned or quit. I did my best during a mental health breakdown and panic attack to discuss these issues with the managing partner and HR office admin. Now again, I never resigned and I do not quit. Am I terminated? Is all of this you firing me? So yeah, I kept getting push notifications about work that I was planning on doing there. I'm just going to try and stick to the altercation from here. So then on June 25th, I received an email from HR that they still claim I resigned, and if I hadn't, they wanted me gone anyway. Let's go check that out. It says we consider you to, and this has Fishy CC'd as well. It says, this is from Fishy. It has Cookie Monster CC'd as well. So it says, Alexis, we consider you to have resigned effective Thursday, June 20th, 2024, as you have indicated in your prior emails, in addition to not reporting back to work. Had you not resigned, your employment would have been terminated because of inappropriate conduct and statements during the first 2 weeks of your employment. You are no longer employed with our firm. I will need you to immediately return the office key and any other property you may have, either by dropping it off the office or putting it in the mail and mailing it directly to my attention. I don't know what inappropriate conduct or statements they're talking about. The only thing that ever happened was I used curse words there because they told me I was allowed to curse, and they were using curse words to me, so I thought I was allowed to use the curse words. And then one day they said don't use curse words, so I stopped using curse words. Or they said don't use curse words in writing, so I don't know. I didn't know that they cared about whether or not the cursing was in writing. But that is the only thing unprofessional there, in my opinion, that I ever did, and I've been at places, some people, don't give a fuck. Like, if you're not being a dick, you can fucking curse, and they don't give a shit. And I've worked at places, where it's okay to curse, and some places it's not. I don't care either way. If you don't want me to curse at your place of employment, I won't. You just have to let me know, and I'll know either way. They told me I could, and then they told me I couldn't. And And I'll show you proof also where I took notes on June 18th about this as well. But hold on. So I responded. So at this point, the way they had treated me, so a lot of this had gone down on June 21st, which is Indigenous Peoples Day. And I'm of Native descent. And so at this point, I had been going through a lot, and I'd also been processing a lot of these things as it relates to my ancestry and my people. And so I told them, because I'm of Powhatan descent, and then I explained my lineage. I said, my lineage is a very specific lineage, and if they were to look into who my lineage is, they would know. I come from a very specific people who mean something. My ancestors documented as some of the first missing and murdered Indigenous people on Turtle Island. Particularly, we survived the genocide of 1666 against us. And our lineage survived through women. And I said, why does this matter? Context. And I sent a link to the enforceability of pre-revolutionary treaties with the Native American tribes, because the context of the United States only exists because of treaties being violated, by the way. And so that's why it's relevant. It's all relevant. Do you understand the way the law and the legal justice system is built is off of our genocide? It's off of violating treaties and lying to people. So that's why it's relevant, because of what they're doing to me. They're not holding to their own fucking word. Native people never thought they would enter into a treaty where it would be violated, because we don't do that. We hold to our word. That's not our way. But that's what colonizers do. I sent a link about epigenetics, why Indigenous people can't just get over it, a model of the intergenerational transmission of historical trauma. I sent a link to tribal nations in the United States, an introduction, where the key takeaways were tribes as nations and tribes an American family of governments. And this was explaining the context of, them violating their word to me was a big trigger to me at this time, based on the genocide of my people. And then, because I had been exposed for so long to them trying to push their values onto me, I decided to tell them my values. And I sent them the Indian Collective Mission, summing up values. We are committed to creating a world that is more justice and equitable for all people on Mother Earth. Defend, develop, decolonize. Then I sent neurodiversity in the cultural context, regarding in Native community how we approach this. And I sent my people's context regarding political organization in early Virginia society, the spiritual religious beliefs of the Powhatan. And then I sent information on the missing and murdered Indigenous peoples crisis, so they could understand why what I was going through was so triggering, and where my somatic flashbacks was all connected. I sent the link regarding how Indigenous Peoples Day is June 21st, the day that she sent me an email claiming I resigned, and I know I never did. And I said before colonialism, there were no borders between our nation. Just because it's only federally recognized in Canada of Indigenous People Day for June 21st, and Indigenous History Month is June, the way the office treated me on Indigenous Day and Indigenous History Month can be perceived as an insult if you check the day of the email I received from HR. And I said, we're connected spiritually and socially. My guidance on how I advocate comes from my ancestors and community. I said, I'm letting you know I'm trying my best to resolve this between us. that I've tried to continue a working relationship, that I have communicated to the best of my ability at work, that I was sent home after what I consider being denied accommodations for mental health, more time to process, where I subsequently had a panic attack, was sent home and told my managing partner that it would be fine because he would discuss it with HR. I was removed from the digital workspace in the same day, then attempted twice to resolve conflict and communicate with the managing partner. Between June 21st and June 24th, I was not only denied accommodation regarding unplanned mental health, but also attempted 5 attempts with HR to communicate and clarify that I never quit, I never resigned, I never just not showed. I was told to leave, had consent revoked in workspace, and was not given accessibility to receive accommodations regarding unplanned mental health issues. I do not think this should be the precedent for accommodation and treatment of people with disabilities, especially when I have informed managing partner of the combination of how my deafness and mental processing of information combined with anxiety means I need time to fully process information before I speak on it. If I am forced to speak on something I have not processed as occurred on June 20th, I will not be able to produce a result that meets social expectations, as I need to process what I am speaking about in order to filter the words I use to talk about it. If you force me to speak before processing is complete, you will receive what has only been processed so far. I also submitted a form to somebody else of HR regarding health insurance disclosing diagnosis of mental health conditions on June 17th. Which I spoke to this person about because they were asking me if, because I have a domestic partner. And I actually, after this, I looked more into this and I didn't know this at the time, that domestic partner is actually like also a legal documentation thing. I'm ignorant, bitches. So we're not legally that, but you know what? I'm thinking if I can get my partner on insurance, why wouldn't I? Like, it's just worth a shot. But if it's not something you can do, then I wasn't trying to force it. I just didn't know if you could or not, so I tried, right? Because why the fuck wouldn't I try to get my partner health insurance? But anyway, so they knew about, in my opinion, she knew about this documentation because we had a conversation. So, and then I said the only conduct inappropriate at the firm I was ever made aware of was that I cursed. I was previously informed that I could curse on June 10th, and then when I was informed I could not curse on June 18th. I made my best efforts to comply with that. The only times a curse word came out after was where I was consciously aware it was during my panic attack and subsequent dissociation regarding attempts at conflict resolution and acquiring accommodations for mental health needs. I cursed in my emails in here, but not that much. I used the word fucking panic attack, I think, and I probably said some other curse words too, but. And then I said, I did not call anyone a curse word. I noted in my work notes there are documented regarding this conversation on June 18, 2024, where I can show I have not edited those notes since then, where I reflect on this exact concept. Let's pause here. So, I would like it noted that these notes are dated in my drafts, and they have not been, and the date shows the date last edit, so they have not been edited. Now, on June 18, 2024, my work note says, topic, social norms, figuring out how to mask more. I don't fucking know what these people expect. First came in, told me they do curse with each other. Today telling me not to curse. Also in the elevator, somebody else mentioned also having the same issue where we feel like we are both rushed, yet if we mention it are told not to rush. And so it's like confusing and contradictory. And both given long ass lists of tasks to do on top of other shit we are supposed to be doing, where it can be unclear and confusing what to prioritize. Seems to lean less on the policy for this side and more on the you do it how we tell you, but we might not do it like that side with the social norms. I don't know. So this person where I mentioned them in my notes there, this is the person that also told me that they were not eating lunch, and that's relevant later, and it corroborates my story later. I'll tell you. And remember, I mentioned that on the notes that had not been edited since June 23rd. Now, and this person also told me that they liked that the office was more laid back and that they could curse. And I said, be careful, because I just got in trouble for cursing. That happened too. And so then I had said, I worked at places where cursing is allowed and at places where it is not. I don't mind either way. I just don't understand how you operate and believe there have been inconsistencies in communication that I am trying my best to clarify as discussed. I also have notes where I wrote down quotes from Goliath that include a curse word. He was giving me a direct order to do something, quote unquote, better to get shit done, June 11th. I always respect boundaries when I am aware of and understand them. Consent is very, very important to me. I never resigned in writing, nor did I resign by the guidelines of your manual. I consider this as you terminate me if you don't want me to work there. What I don't understand is if you were going to terminate me anyway, why wait until I have a panic attack in the office to act like I quit when I'm told to go home? Why not just terminate me when you wanted to, if you wanted to? Because consent is important to me, I am happy to arrange returning your key since you are asking for it back. I will not keep something that belongs to me when someone wants it back. I can get it there sooner if I drop it off in person. If it is okay for me to leave it with somebody else, I believe I can make arrangements to do so Friday. Or since according to your manual you accommodate disabilities or understanding of mental health issues and have a procedure that I follow to the best of my ability given the circumstances for unplanned PTO, you can understand that I have made best attempts here to have a working environment conducive to accommodations for mental health disabilities, and you could try to work with people like me in the future. I sent an attachment, a picture of me and my father, an Indigenous man. And then I said, and another thing, the deadline for Goliath to do Gretna Fest is you have to get that paid and contract signed by June 28th or he will lose his spot. He already is past the deadline because of that falling through the cracks before I started. And I got them to give us a grace period before they fill our spot. You will lose the spot if you don't get on that by June 28th. And then I said, and also, the way this all happened is very triggering for me. So I am not trying to blow your email up, but also feel the need to add, I have not yet been paid for any work completed between June 5th and June 20th. So if there is anything I need to do about that, please let me know. Fishy said, payroll is being processed today for payment on Friday for direct deposit. Drop your key off Friday morning or put it in the mail, whatever works. Just let me know if you'll be coming off on Friday morning to drop it off so I can make them aware. And I responded, I'll update you to confirm as I am having to adjust my own schedule at the last minute for the near future to ensure my own security. I think it will be Friday afternoon. In the future, what I think would be helpful is if you have an issue with an employee to address it with them so they know they are doing something wrong or that they can be doing better, as the way this occurred is very detrimental to mental health. You claimed you were going to terminate me anyway, but in my check-ins with Goliath, he said I was doing fine. And when I asked him if there was anything I need to be doing, he said no, and that I was doing great. Cookie Monster even slacked me once that I don't have to worry about job security when I discussed with her having doubts about dropping clients and changing my life around to work here. She was also trying to convince me to let go of the other clients I had. Last check-in on June 17th, Goliath even asked me if there was anything else I needed help with after I discussed about 25 issues I wrote down where I was aware I needed help. I responded, not that I am aware of, but I can't know what I need help with if I am not aware of it. So is there anything I should be aware of? And he said no, and that I was doing great. He assured me I was doing fine and that I didn't need to worry. So if you have a problem with someone and they ask you outright if you do and you say no you don't, I think it's fine to process later if you did, but also you can understand why I would have no way of knowing if anything I was doing wrong to change it if not told about it. Then I said before June 20th, I wasn't sure if issues were just bumps in the road, a matter of needing more communication, a matter of information overload, a matter of too many tasks assigned at once, a matter of needing SOPs to follow. I hadn't processed what exactly were short-term or long-term problems versus what was normalized as a culture in the workplace. It wasn't until your email that I was ever told that my conduct was not conducive to employment there. I respect that boundary or decision, but in the future, I think it would be way more helpful to your people if you communicated with them these issues up front and directly, instead of bringing it up after a medical episode in regards to needing time to regulate my nervous system. If you talk to people about these things, I think you will find that people are more than willing to respect what you are asking if they know there is an issue. It shouldn't be unnoticed that, including me, there have been 3 people in my position in about 6 months to a year. I tried my best to break that cycle, to understand why there is a retention issue, and to provide solutions to issues I was having, as well as address the questions I had when I was able to understand my own issues. I have also tried my best to let you know about the issues I had with communication on my end, so that you can consider this and how others are treated going forward. I appreciate the final confirmation that your intention was indeed termination. I really hope you reflect on how work conditions, income disparity, mental health, and discrimination in the workplace are intersectional factors here. Waiting until after someone is still dealing with regulating their nervous system after having a panic attack to tell them you wanted to terminate them all along, when that person had already asked how they could be doing better and was not given that feedback, can come off as not understanding of the human condition or disability. I also hope you reflect on how denying a reasonable request for time to process information is discussed in Title I of the ADA, how CPTSD and deafness are both covered under the ADA, and how the Department of Labor outlines in their guide for requesting accommodations mentions the specific usage of plain language being enough to suffice as a request that is aligned with requiring ADA accommodations according to DOL. And then on June 27th, I said I'd arranged a ride and plan to, they didn't respond. I said I planned to arrange a ride and plan to return the key 3 p.m. CT Friday, June 28th. That time may vary slightly, give or take an hour. I'll let you know if anything comes up preventing me from doing so, as well as confirm an email for grounding myself through my own records when I have dropped it off. I felt so fucking gaslit by this email chain where, for me, at this time, it felt like they were trying to convince me that I quit when I know I didn't quit. And I felt like they were trying to convince me that I just no-showed, and I didn't feel I didn't just no-show. I felt like they were telling me not to come, denying me, a way to be there, and then telling me, you know what I mean? Like, I felt so gaslit that when I dropped off the key, I recorded it. And Louisiana, to my understanding, is a first-party recording state. To my understanding, it is legal for me to have recorded this.
I am recording this because I previously felt gaslit, and
so I'm saying, I was trying to say this has captions, but won't let me put it on. Hold on. Okay, let's keep watching. I had a sweater on in the car, but I didn't even fucking put it on because it was hot as shit and whatever. It's not like I was going in there to work, but this is typically how I would have dressed in the office, plus a sweater or some type of like shawl thing. I don't know, birds.
due to the email chain, I think you understand why. It is Friday, June 28th. It is right at 3 p.m. It's 301 CT.
Yeah, she made me a fucking cookie, of course, but it's like her job. She bakes a cookie for everybody when they come in, when she knows they're coming.
Let me give you a receipt, though, okay?
Oh, I appreciate that.
Cover us here. Cover you, cover me.
Cover me.
After she said, let me give you a receipt, though, cover you, cover me, I just feel like that's a good, that's an interesting, in my opinion, it kind of seems to be the mentality of that workplace, all about covering things. All right, here we go. And then, after I returned the key at 3 p.m. that day, about 10 minutes later, I had already typed all of this up and had it scheduled to auto send. I said, I tried my best after what feels like at least a dozen attempts to have conflict resolution on accommodations for disabilities in the workplace. I was sent home following a panic attack after denial of accommodation for disability and had access revoked to digital workspace about 5 hours later. I never resigned in writing or orally. I still communicated to the best of my ability, even when still working to regulate nervous system within manual time frame of time needed to report in to where the manual states you might terminate me if you want to, but I didn't resign at that time. And I followed all company as well as legal guidelines to the best of my ability regarding requesting accommodations for disability, unplanned PTO for mental health related reasons, and instructions as I understood them to be told to me at any given time as best as I am able. And then I said, how do you expect people to feel safe to talk to you or bring things up when this is the outcome of it? Do you really think people feel secure in their job this way? I'm terrified of scaling my team too fast because I would never want a human being to depend on me for their living and then have me not follow through. I hope you reflect on how working conditions and control of someone's income ties into unbalanced power dynamics that make others scared to make a wrong move with you. I believe the office environment and the way it pressured me privately can trigger people's fight, flight, or freeze responses. I believe that people who are kept there are those who freeze and don't ruffle any feathers. I might be emotional, but I don't like to quit as my attitude is more like Ruth Langmore screaming from Ozark, Season 4, Part 1. Let's insert a clip of that here.
If you want to stop me, you're gonna have to fucking kill me!
Yeah. And so I sent them that. And then I said, prior to June 20th, I felt something off, but I didn't realize there was anything wrong with our working relationship. I thought it was a matter of getting to know each other and figuring out issues. I thought if we could be real with each other and if he really wanted me to tell him then what was in my head, I could discuss why I was struggling to mask in an environment where I am told one thing at one time and then find out another thing is what's real later, constantly. At a time, I'm trying to understand what I should be doing where I did say this feels fake, because at that time, I was mentally not able to regulate my emotions or nervous system and doing my best to remain calm. He had previously told me when I tried to tell him I have mental health issues, we all do. I was hoping he would understand. And then I say, in Native community, we preach truth and reconciliation. We advocate for truth and reconciliation. And then I talk about how I was sexually assaulted by the son of a man who was an attorney that helped police get away with shooting an unarmed black man in the back. True. Subsequently, about 2 to 3 years later, due to false pretenses, because my family tried to convince me being fingered without consent was not rape, then weaponized institutionalization over me as punishment for insisting they were wrong and contributing to rape culture, I was 5150'd. And then I said June 18th is my mom's birthday, so it's a week I tend to ruminate on this shit. There's the expression, don't burn bridges, where I was like, pass me the fucking blowtorches. May the bridges I burn light the way. I referred to all of this during my initial interview when I was told all of the jobs on my resume would be contacted, and I replied, well, I know I did good work, but I called those people out regarding my essay, so they probably won't give me good reference. Feeling gaslighted and pressured by an attorney is a very big trigger for me. He knows in his heart what happened, and I know in my heart what happened. In this future, I hope you reflect on the harm responding to people's disabilities the way I was treated causes. I do consider what occurred on June 20th as well as the aftermath in the following days discrimination. And I said, you know why my family chose my rapist over me? Money. Here I say, you know why my own family chose my rapist over me? Money. And here is where I tell them about my sexual assault and about why money doesn't fucking matter to me. And I said I didn't know about the law then. I had no help then. I thought if you're a person of your word, you'd be the type of person I wished I had for myself then. But instead, I feel trapped in a different version of getting wrapped up in a community that will use you up and spit you out. I would rather be alone than in a room of people I can't trust. And then I was saying, after the sexual assault happened, I went through a phase of wanting justice for myself. And I wrote about my rapist, named him, and named every person that was supported him on my blog. He sent me a cease and desist letter of the man, whatever the fuck shit. I got my former coworker, client, or advisor, my attorney for that situation. And she's going to help me share it in a way I can't get sued over because she showed me what my mistakes were. I learned from those. And the old links I had for what he sent me a letter over, I 301 redirected to an article about his father helping the police get away with a shooting. So if people click those links, they find that. I'm telling you this because it's not the first time in my life I felt like money controlled people more than value alignment somewhere. And I think that's why, based on this prior trauma, when I started feeling pushed, the first thing that came out of me that sums up all of this without having processed it, trauma dumping or rambling, is yeah, it felt fake at that time. I think that's also why I had a panic attack. I worked so hard to recover from all of those losses. I finally rebuilt the community for myself, and I made a lot of changes to try and make things work with you. I decided I was going to risk what I built, and I dropped someone else to do so. All of the stress accumulated, combined with the triggers, led to a panic attack after being denied more time to process information. It also can take some people like me days to recover from a panic attack. When I am triggered, I have somatic flashbacks that feel as if I am reliving my past. And there's even more to what happened than that. Why did I still try to make sure you're getting Gratnafest done and fight for advocacy in the workplace despite you refusing to accommodate my disabilities and leading me to believe that the feedback I received at work was never honest feedback? So I know for myself, I tried my best until the very end and that I never stopped doing a good job. When I was finally able to tell my Native community what happened, I began my decolonizing journey, healing journey, as well as cultural and community reconnection. You won't ever be able to convince me that something different happened than what I know happened. You won't be able to convince me this wasn't discrimination the same way my family cannot convince me being fingered without consent isn't rape. I do think these concepts that I have brought up need to be talked about in the office, and I also think these social issues need to be discussed generally. How can people trust a legal system in which those who are supposed to defend us won't protect their own people? How does anyone trust someone to be a person of their word in a situation like this? There's also a sign in HR that says you don't have to be crazy to work here. We'll train you. And I'm referring to this sign right here. This is on the HR administrative's desk. I don't know if they know that using crazy in this way is also ableism and discrimination. And you can check out my video on, I think I called it a crash course on ableist language. That's a good video to go check out for more information about that. I'm pretty sure I covered that there. When I first saw that, I thought it was funny and took a picture because I already struggle with mental health. Now I wonder if that's foreshadowing of questioning reality in the workplace. I hope in the future you work to break stigmas regarding lawyers as well as mental health and disability that I feel were perpetuated in my experience there. And in my timeline where I labeled a photo of the picture where it says you don't have to be crazy to work here, we'll train you, I put ableism or mental health awareness versus trap or foreshadowing. It's a sign. Then I said, I hope in the future you work to break stigmas regarding lawyers as well as mental health and disability that I feel were perpetuated in my experience there. And every client injured regarding the law, I see myself. I see my relatives. That's why I wanted to work there. I told you I wouldn't beg to stay at a place where I wasn't wanted, and I meant that. At the moment I was feeling pressured where I caved occurred because I thought if you really do care, I should be able to tell you my doubts. I really believed in everything I thought you were supposed to do, but I should have known better than to believe in you. I hope one day you start to care about the people who work for you. I also don't know how you expect me or anyone else to mask if it's not clear how you operate. It wasn't until your emails between June 21st and June 25th I realized on your end you gave me the impression you never liked who I am at all, which didn't come out to me until after I pushed for and was denied accommodations covered under the ADA. On Tuesday, June 18th, one of their case managers, or actually their intake specialist, one of their intake specialists told me Goliath told her he thought I was brilliant. On Wednesday, June 19th, Goliath came into my office and told me that I was brilliant himself to my face. I had also discussed with Goliath on June 17th that if there was anything he thought I should be doing, or if there's anything I'm doing that I need to do differently, I can make sure I'm doing that if he wants me to be doing. And he reassured me I was doing fine. I don't know how it went from that to y'all wanting me gone all along, but your wish is my command. I'm out. I returned to Keith's desk around 3 p.m. CT. I have received my check. I do not consent to any further contact on any platforms, including response to this email from HR, managing partner, CMO, or anyone from the company, regardless of their employment role in regards to anything to do with the law firm, other than tax document related purposes, if that is not automatically done by Gusto. I fully believe I could say I try my best to resolve conflict, follow instructions, work together, advocate for disability and mental health accommodations in the workplace, as well as still be on good terms. I do think it's funny. I felt as if Goliath tried to infantilize me on June 20th, called me sweetheart, and told me twice, you're an adult, you can leave if you want to. But he was the one who wasn't bold enough to not only fire me, either to my face or directly, but also tell me the truth all along. I really hate when people go from hugging me to stabbing me in the back. And to treat any current or former employee like they mean nothing is shameful. Still wishy well though. And then I sent them a summary communication timeline from my perspective, as I've been discussing with you guys. Minus, I didn't send them, I took out the EEOC filing though. I didn't tell them that I was doing that. And then I sent them everything that I remembered that I processed, that I already read to you before. And then I said, I processed the root of my trigger, but I still don't understand the root cause of the issue between us, as that was never communicated clearly to me, in my opinion. Something I think missing from operations as it pertains to both employee retention and building customer personal relationships in terms of increasing repeat sales and building loyalty and community is that an aspect of humanization is missing from the managing partner and administrator. If you focus more on your role in the healing journey of all individuals in the firm, including employees, and nurture actual connections and relationships more, everything else will come together. People love to buy, but they hate to be sold to. One suggestion for this improvement is to reframe your reviews from a review of the firm to a chance for a person to have their story shared on public record if they choose to do so. When you ask for a review at the end of someone's trauma, it feels like exploiting trauma for business growth. When you ask someone if having their story told would be healing in their journey, you're giving people a chance to be heard. Reframe your utilization of merchandise in your bottom funnel the same way, and you may have higher customer retention rates if that is still an area you want more growth on. Because on that same level, you can't buy loyalty with merch or dinners. You have to feel supported to feel like part of a community, not like they are just getting what they pay you to do, and now you might be trying to get more money out of them. People are being more and more vocal about ad fatigue, and your overload of advertisement at the end of the case might be too much of a push to have people feel safe to hire you again if you are noticing that your former clients are getting new lawyers for new cases. Look into the concept of the hero's journey as it pertains to business. You are not Frodo, you are Gandalf. Your client is Frodo. Your employees are Samwise. Employees should be treated just as good as clients. Thank you for showing me who you really are before I gave you even more of my energy and time. And thank you for showing me where I am in my healing journey. About 5 years ago, I would have gone apeshit on you. My response was showing me I am doing my best with how I react to my triggers. Worst thing in life is to end up with people who make you feel all alone. Quote from Robin Williams. And that was my final communication to them. Then I received a letter from the Louisiana Workforce Commission. After firing me, they filed a letter to the Louisiana Workforce Commission that I quit, so I couldn't receive unemployment even though they fired me and I never quit in writing or orally. In my opinion, this may potentially be perceived as false legal documentation, and potentially. That brings me to September 19th. I had originally scheduled an in-person interview, but my investigator that day ended up needing to be out of the office, so he ended up calling me, asking me if we could do a phone interview instead of an in-person interview. So that's what happened instead. On the phone, he told me that I was extremely organized, and that really meant a lot to me, because I had just been in a situation where I was gaslit so much in the legal system that to have an investigator for the EEOC tell me my case was very organized, it really meant a lot. And so I emailed them a link to this drive. On June 22nd, on September 20th, not June, I'm so sorry. Whew. On September 20th, he had me review a statement. Because he wanted me to verify the accuracy of the charge. I replied confirming the word, suggesting a word change with a typo, confirming the statement. I was expressing concern for not sure what is too little or too much to say because of trying to compress a lot of data, results in loss of information. So, let's just check out these emails. Hold on. So, my investigator sent me a statement and it said, please review. And it said, I began employment with the law office in June 2024 as a marketing coordinator, earning June 20th, 2024. I received an email to report to managing partner's office to discuss an article. Noticed I was visibly upset. He pressured me to discuss the issue. I advised I need more time to process this, and I was not ready because I have too much going on to analyze all my notes, emails, and tasks assigned to me. He kept pressuring me to speak now. I used my notes to discuss ideas regarding possible work adjustments and communication with him. I advised him that I did not feel like I could talk to him, that this interaction felt fake. He advised that this was his firm, he had the right to know what was going on. He pressured me to tell him about other coworkers and work culture. I tried to tell him how my mind processes information. He told me, you're an adult, you can leave if you want. I reiterated that I did not want to talk about this now because it was too much pressure. I had a panic attack at this moment. He tried to calm me down. He called me sweetheart and he hugged me, and after that he told me to just go home and that he would talk to human resources. After I left, my passwords were changed and was logged out of the digital workplace. I was told by human resources I resigned. I did not resign. I was terminated. Oh, wait. Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I meant to include the first one. So first he sent me, please review the statement, advise if necessary. He sent me the same statement without the part about being hugged and called sweetheart. And I had said, yes, thank you. I think this is as brief of a summary as can be made of it, since there's way more to it, like him calling me sweetheart after hugging me. But that's where I overthink because I don't know what is too much or not enough for the official statement. But yes, I do think this is a good statement of things that happen. The only thing I might change is I think analysis is a typo for analyze, and that's line analysis on my notes. And that's how I appreciate you. So you can revise and add the sweetheart hug. I said, I appreciate you. I think it's standing out to me so much because of how it went from that to where I felt they iced me out. And then he sent me the please review. Okie dokie. And then from there, I said, thank you so much. Yes, I think this is as succinct as you can summarize this. With data compression, there is loss of information, so my anxiety is like all-time high, but I really appreciate you. And he said, please revise to your satisfaction and send it back to me. I said, I have no revisions to make. I approve as is. I only meant that's as good as I'm going to feel about how concise it is. As you may have noticed, I talk a lot because I give perhaps too many details. My best friend calls me Chatty Cathy due to my overthinking, which can be a blessing and a curse. Thank you for following up with me. If there's anything else I need to do, anything I should expect, I'd love to make sure I'm doing everything I can to see this through on my part. Totally understand a lot of moving parts involved, so this will probably take time for review and stuff. Also, hope you have a good weekend. And then he responded, do you believe the harassment was sexual or no, with the hug and all? And I responded, yes, I do. Short answer is yes. Longer answer, I understand there may be different legal definitions that differ from my opinion. And I do believe there are definite issues where I can look and say this fits discrimination against my deafness and mental health according to what I know of the ADA. I've spent a lot of time reading those laws about them. I have playlists about this on my YouTube channel. For example, the Aikson versus Lawford one is about a Supreme Court case regarding limiting applications of ADA. So because I know more about the ADA, I feel confident that my belief is discrimination against me also matches the law. Like, I'm not a lawyer, but I feel 100% sure. I don't know enough about sexual harassment law to have that same confidence that my opinion matches the law, so my confidence goes down to 75% certainty of legal standing, even if personal belief is 100%, because I'm curious as to the following. 1, did he tell me I'm an adult I can leave if I want to because I look like a young woman, or because he was infantilizing me based on my mind? My friends joke I look 12 because I'm short too. 2, Would he call a man sweetheart? 3, does he hug men in the office after calling them sweetheart? 4, does he call other women in the office sweetheart that I don't know about? 5, is he aware that if the answer number 1 leans towards me looking like a young woman, that is tied to what I believe with 100% certainty a definition of misogyny regarding prejudice towards my characteristics as a woman, or ableism regarding prejudice towards my characteristics in mental capacity or maturity, or ageism regarding how I should be at any age. And he said, thanks, ma'am. I don't have much expectations because I read that I reviewed the EEOC claims from 1992 to 2011 found that only 23.4% of cases are closed with merit. And so, because in my head, I think there's only a 23% chance of the EEOC of even taking my case with merit, that's where, like, when I'm estimating, where I'm thinking, like, even if I'm 100% confident, even if I don't know about the law, and then I'm also taking in what do I think with that 23% chance. Like, even if I'm at a 75% confidence rate, I still think there's a 23% chance of it getting taken or whatever. And so that's like where I was overthinking there about the likelihood of if this is discrimination, what type, and is it going to get recognized. That's where I was overthinking. And so then my charge was prepared by the EEOC, and I had a charge of discrimination signed with EEOC on October 1st, 2024. And so, hold on. Okay. So, the original inquiry, I had that PDF downloaded for the reason for the complaint was disability retaliation, complaint to my employer about job discrimination. For adverse actions, I put June 20th, 2024, 10 a.m.ish. Managing partner denies accommodation for mental health, more time to process information before speaking, sent home from work after a panic attack, called someone to pick me up 10:27 a.m., 12:30 p.m., removed from business admin on Facebook, 3:07 p.m., Slack password changed not by me, email asking if fired and if I should come back in, sent to managing partner 3:39 p.m., response given with HRCC 4:12 p.m. to ask someone else, reply given 5:52 p.m. I wanted to have conflict resolution with managing partner. June 21st, 2024, 7:16 a.m. firm meetings with CMO canceled by CMO. 11:33 a.m. HR emailed me that I resigned. 3:16 p.m. marketing mastermind meetings canceled by CMO. 4:26 p.m. responded to HR I never resigned. Asked if I was fired. 4:56 p.m. notice logged out of email, but push notifications came through my phone showing that I was removed as a team member on Canva. Diagnosed with CPTSD, deaf, hard of hearing, etc. And this was submitted on June 22nd, 2024. For the reasons that I was given for the action taken against me, I said after I was told to go home by the managing partner, I was told by HR because of the emails I sent trying to communicate that I wanted to be able to talk directly with the managing partner about working together, and because I complied with instructions not to be in the office after told to leave and removed from company group chat, that I resigned. I responded I didn't feel I had consent to show up and that I never quit or resigned. Said, was anyone in a similar situation treated the same, better, or worse than you? I said, a paralegal who started a week after me was granted emergency time off work to deal with medical issues. But I don't understand why I would be made to feel like I am fired for having a panic attack and staying home after told to leave and removed from company chat. It says, please tell us any other information about your experience. I said, attempt at summary, more to the story. I had a panic attack at work after being denied requests for accommodation and more time to process before discussing an issue. They sent me home and then they removed me from everything and sent me an email stating I resigned. So I replied discussing section 1 of the ADA, which I felt was violated, and linked to an article showing how I did everything I knew I was supposed to request accommodations. I also listed pages and sections of their own manual handbook that shows competing information and may possibly have been violated in my experience with this, and I told them I never quit, I never resigned. I asked if they were firing me. I do have screenshots and emails in relation to many of the items in my timeline that I am tracking of this altercation. And then the charge of discrimination that was signed and filed on August, not, what am I saying August? On October 1st. And yeah. So yeah, October 1st, my EEOC charge was filed and signed with the EEOC, and within 10 days, they will be receiving this information. They may already have at the time of, right now it's October 4th that I've been recording all of this. Okay, so on October 2nd, 2024, at 6:16 p.m., I found a bad review from a former employee on Indeed. I do not have proof of this, as I have had no contact with anybody from Merck since I worked there. But I do believe, based on my notes and based on my memory, that the person who left this review is the person that I was talking to in the elevator. And this review, I also believe, corroborates the part of my story that I don't have the evidence for. I believe this review corroborates that. Where I'm sharing my perspective of my argument with the managing partner. I don't have evidence for that because it was just me and him there. But I believe this review corroborates my perspective of what I said. So the review says, 1 star. Employees are pleasant to work with, but the main focus is on marketing and intake / quantity of cases to settle. Quality of work is not important. And this is from September 19th, 2024, from a case manager. It said, almost every week you learn about staff either being fired or quitting. The average employment was 2 to 3 months and less. It's a personal injury work mill, not a serious law firm. They never pay overtime even if you work it, and expect you to give up weekends and evenings of your own personal time to do marketing to the public and current clients. Every legal assistant, paralegal, and associate attorney complained amongst themselves about the unreasonable amount of cases and work expected out of them. Everyone except the top attorneys worked overtime, all the time. The only enjoyable part of the job was meeting a few good people's staff. Pros, none. Cons, skip lunch frequently. Working overtime, knowing you won't be paid for it. 3 stars on compensation benefits, 1 star on work-life balance, job security, advancement, culture, management. And I put, yes, this review was helpful. Now, within the same week that this was review was left on September 19th, the next week, all within the same week, 11 more reviews are put onto Indeed, and they're all positive, and I believe I know who most of them are. And in my opinion, I don't have evidence. Obviously, I'm not there. I'm not in touch with any of these people. But what are the chances that 11 people who have been there for years, many of them have been there for years, are all going to decide to go leave a review in the same week? How genuine do you think that review is? And one of the reviews comes from the marketing coordinator. Let's look at that one. So the marketing coordinator, it says strong law firm with goals to advance everyone. You've only been there since maybe July. So is this an advancement for you? Or you already get a promotion that quick? Wow. But marketing coordinator was my job title, so I don't know if that was your promotion. I don't know. I don't know who the marketing coordinator is now. I don't know who that is, but I just think that's funny considering how new they are. They seem to, you know what I mean? So for me, it's just like, can you really say that somewhere you just started? So do you think that 11 positive reviews left between, all of the 11 positive reviews were left between September 20th and September 28th, if you look at the dates. The bad review came on September 19th, if you look at the dates. So what are the chances? You know what I'm saying? Like, what are the fucking chances that 11 people decide after they see one bad review, you know, to all go leave good reviews? What are the chances? Anyway, you could say maybe they just really like their job that much and they saw one person say something bad and decided to go defend. Maybe that's it. Maybe they really, really, really like licking boots. Anyway. Now, I also found a bad review on GlassDoor. It keeps wanting me to add my review or salary to continue using it. I'm not fucking doing that. So let me show you the screenshots. So I took a screenshot of the bad review, and it says, do not work here. It says, pro, employees are nice, but are fired or leave within 2 to 3 months. Cons, the owners and top attorneys are more interested in quality of cases over quality of work. All associate attorneys have only been there 3 to 4 months. Staff lasts about 2 to 3 months, then are fired or quit because of workload. You work overtime, but do not get paid. You're expected to participate in marketing stunts on weekends and evenings. This firm is a personal injury work mill, not a serious law firm. And that's because on August 3rd and August 10th, they had marketing events. And it said, advice to management. After hiring and firing multiple legal case managers in a year for each position and having multiple workers quit before they are fired, you should have figured out by now it's not the employee. I'm sure you noticed by now. The same thing happens in the marketing department as it does in the case management department. Look at that. Look at that. Okay, and then I wanted to know when the date was on that, and so I clicked page view source, and it's in an incognito tab because I was getting that goddamn pop-up for leave a review to see this page. I was like, fuck that, so I viewed it incognito to see it again. So I viewed the page source to try to find the date, and I believe that the date that the page was last updated was September 27th, 2024. And so I believe that's when that review could have possibly been left, and I'm wondering if it's the same person or not. But isn't that fascinating? So yeah, the EEOC would not have allowed me to file a charge of discrimination if they didn't think I had a case.
Time for Dave again. Well, some of this didn't age well. The case didn't go in my favor.
Or if they didn't think there was cause or reason to believe I could potentially have a case, in my opinion. And the reason I think that is because of resources. I don't believe that the government is going to spend any more money than they have to on this situation. And so I strongly believe that if I did not have a case, that my case would have been dropped already. In my opinion, when she sent me that email that told me based on my email, I had resigned. In my opinion, that itself is discriminating against me and using me being discriminated as a reason to not allow me to be in the workspace anymore, in my opinion. Now, an HR admin and a CMO who are not willing to stand up to a managing partner to say, you're gonna fuck your shit up if you go down this path, aren't trustworthy. Is it the managing partner who's not willing to listen to HR and CMO? Then they need to go, because why would you stay with a client who isn't willing to listen to you, who is going to bring your name down, who is doing unethical shit? Why would you stay somewhere where this type of stuff is happening? Now, if it's the managing partner who maybe he had a bad day and the CMO or the HR, I don't know, was just in his head and that's where he allowed them to take over, and he's not used to doing business, so he stepped out because he was only trained on law, but he wasn't trained on actually managing people, then maybe we can put more blame on the HR. I don't know. I judge all three in this situation personally. And seeing the review that corroborated my statement, that was so grounding for me. So, am I crazy? Or am I fucking brilliant? Thanks for watching. Join the loyalty program at noladeafchild.com/loyalty and check in during live streams to get points for rewards.